I'm Emily.
And I'm Clark.
We have been living here on our boat in Luperon Harbor in the Dominican Republic, and this is what the last month has looked like for us. Hi, I'm Emily.
And I'm Clark.
We opted out of a typical American life to live more independently, frugally, and off the grid.
We currently travel the world aboard our antique sailboat named Temptress.
Each month, we sit down to tell you where we are, what we're doing, share the best and worst moments, answer questions, and tell you exactly how much it costs us to live this life.
This is our adventure log for September 2020.
Last month we took you into town to see grocery shopping and all that. This month we're going to take you on another view of Luperon. Let's go for a hike. The weather here in Luperon has been awesome recently. No tropical storms to worry about since Laura. Everything's been fairly calm. We still have that cycle going where it's calm in the morning and then windy in the afternoon, so just when it gets hot it also gets a little bit breezy, which is so nice for cooling off on the boat. We're really enjoying the weather here.
This is the entrance to Luperon Harbor, outer harbor anyway. We came in from that direction. That's where the Turks and Caicos are. Sailed all night and into the day. Came in here. You probably see the markers out there. You have to slip between those because there's reefs all over the place. But once you get around those reefs, it's magical. Come in behind the point, get between those reefs, and all of a sudden it becomes a mill pond and the wind shuts off and you feel very welcome here. This is kind of a really great harbor. There aren't many like it in the whole Caribbean where you have this kind of protection. And most of them are great big cities and they're all built up. Where Luperon is actually a park. This whole part of the province is a federal park with just a few towns and a few houses in it. It makes it special.
On the way here to Luperon and in our final days in the Bahamas, we did a lot of escaping into our screens, into our phones, just trying to get through the next day, get through the next crossing, get through the next trip. And now that we're here, we're trying to break the habit of being in our screens and looking up and getting out and enjoying all the nature that's here. It's really good to get out and spend some time outdoors.
It's been a very busy month project-wise. We had a lot of damage getting here, a lot of big damage getting here. So this month has been trying to get Temptress ready to go to sea again when we're ready to go to sea. We measured up the mainsail and we're in negotiations with a couple lofts trying to find the best price and the best cloth to replace it with. Looks like it's going to come from Asia. So that'll be a new experience. We really lost this solar arch during that big thunderstorm, broke a bunch of welds and stuff. Well, I've got this friend here that's been in this bay for about a year. We met him back in the Bahamas. He's got an aluminum boat and he's kind of a do-it-yourself guy like I am. Except I left my welder at home. He brought his with him. He's got the coolest welder. It runs off the ship's diesel engine, right, like an alternator right off the engine. And we took our solar arch down, took it over to his boat, welded it all up, brought it back. It's back on now. So we're back to having a good solar arch, which means we can have our awning up. And our awning makes life so much easier. We can just walk around the boat without having to duck under things, and we have shade. The boat's much cooler.
In addition to measuring the mainsail, repairing the solar arch, and setting up our awning, we've been working on pulling up some old cockpit flooring so we can treat for ants which have been getting in through some holes we found. I also revarnished my dinghy seats, and Clark worked on the air conditioning thermostat, which had gotten soaked with salt water on our trip over, and replaced the sparker in the stove, which was another heavy lifting job.
And the other big job was Emily's hair.
We are working on taking out all my box braids, all 150 something of them. How's it going back there, Clark?
There's a lot of braids.
Uh-huh.
But I got my one-tooth comb.
I've decided the braids are going to come out. They were really useful in the Bahamas when the water was amazing and I was jumping overboard 3 times a day to go swimming. But here in the DR, the water's kind of nasty. And so I don't need this so much. So we're going to let the scalp have a break and have pretty princess hair for a little while. See how it goes. I appreciate you. A lot of work.
Not as much as putting them in. But it wasn't all work this month. We still had time to host all our boat neighbors for Saturday brunch, compare video stats with some other YouTubers, play some tabletop games, and to do a bit of yoga, which is taught by other cruisers here in the harbor.
Let's talk about the budget for this month. Every month we're out here on the boat, we try to spend less than $1,000. This month we spent $696 on our regular expenses. That includes $65 for customs and immigration, which we forgot to count last month, so we're counting it this month. Groceries were $260. We didn't pay for the marina this month for laundry and trash. We're doing our own laundry again because we don't have any of that bulky big stuff, so it's just $60 for our mooring. We spent $13 going out to a restaurant one time. We spent $22 on alcohol. We spent $116 on internet and a new router. We spent $112 on parts, which was our stove sparker and our pump for the galley water. And we spent $48 in shipping to get some of those parts in this month. So our total, $696. Not bad at all. Our year-to-date expenditures are $8,808, and our year-to-date monthly average is $979. So we are doing well with our $1,000 a month budget. In addition to our regular expenses this month, we also made some big purchases for a new camera, some new lenses, a new hard drive, and some new sound equipment. So special shout out to all of our patrons out there who are helping us every month and coming along on the adventure. You help us purchase new equipment that makes these videos get better. It seems like no matter how much we pack into our bags when we go grocery shopping, it always comes out to about $50. I think the most was $62 and the least amount was $52. So it's always within that range no matter what we're buying. And we're getting a wide variety of food. We get a lot of chicken, which is locally sourced, and a lot of chicken means a lot of curry on our boat. A lot of curry and a lot of stir fry. And we're really, really enjoying that. We hope to next month get out to Puerto Plata, which is the next city over, and be able to go to a big sort of North American style grocery store where we can get more things than what's available locally here.
Last month we put out a video on measuring up the mainsail and showed a lot of details. Mick from Sweden asked a question. Why do you only have 2 reef points? 3 is kind of common, especially on an ocean going boat or a boat this big. But I choose to only have 2. And why I do that is they're very deep reefs. So my second reef is almost as big as a third reef would be. I'm not racing. I don't need that tight gear ratio. I can take big jumps. But most importantly, when it's really blowing, like 50 knots and above, or at least 40 knots and above, I don't want the main up at all. I want a storm trysail up. We used it on the trip getting here just because we lost the main. And you can kind of think of it as like a quadruply reefed main. It's a small sail that goes up in place of the main. Why I like to use that instead of the heavily reefed main is the main is made with a certain heavy weight of cloth. And that's just not enough for that kind of wind. So you get it down so it doesn't get harmed. It's very valuable. And you put up the maybe a little bit more sacrificial storm trysail and use that in its place. Storm trysails were quite the fashion for boats going offshore. They've kind of gone out of fashion now. The wind didn't change, the weather didn't change, the attitudes of sailors have changed. Maybe that's a little bit correct because, you know, you got good weather forecasting now and you can just not go out in a bad storm, where 100 years ago you go out and a hurricane might come right over you without you knowing. But if you're crossing oceans, you don't get to pick your weather. Things happen, and it's good to have the right sails. What a storm trysail is a very heavyweight sail that goes up parallel to the main in its own track. So you just drop the main down, put up the storm trysail. It's kind of about the same effort of putting up a jib. Doesn't even hook to the boom. It sheets like a jib with sheets that just go back to points on the boat. You pull it in. It's the right gear when it's really blowing. It's the greatest safety thing when it's really going, because you can keep your boat balanced and you can keep it moving. And moving is life. You know, you can get away from that hurricane center. You can get to a safe place eventually. You can't let your boat not be moving. Also, a moving boat's way more comfortable than a foundering, bopping boat. If you're thinking about getting a storm trysail, I have one bit of advice. Buy a used one. It's the kind of thing you stow away and never use. And when you're done with your boat, you sell it. Somebody else gets it, stows it away, and never uses it. I've had Temptress for 30 years, and this is the first time I've rigged the storm trysail. They just don't wear out. Also, they're made really heavy. So that's why there's 2 reefs on Temptress. Mick, thanks a lot for your question. If anybody else has questions, you can leave them in the comment section below, or of course on Patreon. It's been a busy month, and thanks for watching.
Thank you to all our patrons. Your names will be scrolling along the side here. We really, really appreciate you guys for coming along on our adventure, and we'll talk to you guys next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
When we met, we knew that we did things differently, but with no regrets, both living life authentically. So we packed up this antique boat to make a life upon the sea. For the worse and for the better, to live a life full of adventure. Emily and Clark's Adventure.